something a little different on the channel today. I'm going to show you how I make my sourdough bread in the home, not in the van. But I've been making this a couple years now. I have since before the pandemic, actually. This is my starter. I've had it going, well, 2 years and 2 months. So I keep it in the refrigerator, which is a little different from some other methods. The main method I follow is from this tartine bread book, but I've changed it a bit. So I'm going to show you the way I've altered it. So to have bread tomorrow, we need to start tonight and make a leaven, which is part of our starter. And we add flour and water to it, and it sits overnight, and then that becomes the base for our bread. So into a smallish bowl, I'm going to add 150 grams of water and a couple tablespoons of this starter. I take it out of the fridge maybe 15-20 minutes before I want to use it, just so it's not super cold. Come on. I would call that one, and maybe a little more. Mix that in. And then in this jar, I have a mix of 50-50 flour. It's 50% white all-purpose flour and 50% whole wheat flour. And that is what we add equal amounts of the water to. So 150 grams water and 150 grams of this. Perfect. And then you just stir this together really quite well. So all the dry bits are incorporated. And I like to put a cover on it and just leave it on the counter overnight. And this will go back in the fridge. See you tomorrow. All right, good morning. It is morning, and it's time to mix up our sourdough bread dough. So here we go. I am going to put it on the ingredients. Okay, there is our leaven from last night. It's all bubbly and nice and ready to go. So I need a big bowl, which I will zero out the scale. And we start off with 700 grams of warm, about 80-degree water. This is right out of the tap. I have nice water here. Now 200 grams of the leaven that we mixed up last night. That's about right. If I go a little over, I don't worry. Now the rest of this, I just add to my jar of starter that I keep in the fridge for next time. I'll put that in a little bit. And now I just stir this up. And that should float. If it's ready, it will float. And after an overnight countertop rise, it is completely floating and ready to go. All right, just get that incorporated nicely. I like to zero out the scale again. And now we add our flour. I just use an organic all-purpose flour. I keep it right in the bag and pour it right out. And I'm looking now for 900 grams of the flour, white flour. And there we are. 900 grams of that. Now, whole wheat flour. And I use this one from Bob's Red Mill right now. We're looking for 100 grams of whole wheat flour. And there we go for that. Now I like to take it off the scales, break my scale. Now I like to use a spoon. Some people like to use their hands. But for this part, I think it just sticks all over your hands too much. And we just want to mix that thoroughly. That looks good. Now, we cover this. I like to cover this with a tea towel and let that sit right here on the counter for about 20 to 30 minutes until we do the next step. Our dough has rested for 25 minutes and absorbed some of that water into the flour. And now we need to add some salt and more water. I'm gonna mix that in. 20 grams of salt. I like to use a Himalayan sea salt. It's about 4 teaspoons, but I do weigh it. And 50 grams of water. That might have been a little too much, but that's okay. And at this point, I do like to mix it with my hands. Really squish it all together. You can feel that salt just kind of getting mixed in. Try to get everything off the edge of my bowl. Alright, that is feeling pretty good. I am going to now let it start its bulk ferment. I'm going to cover it, leave it on the counter, set a timer for 30 minutes. Okay, that's my timer. 30 minutes has gone by and it's time for the first of our turns. You need to have a clean, wet hand, and we're going to take the dough and stretch it in one direction and fold it over. Quarter turn of the bowl, pick up this side, stretch it out, and fold it over. I'm going to get my hand a little more wet because it's sticky. And quarter turn, pull, fold over, and the fourth time, fold it over. All right, that is called one turn, and I like to do this about 5 or 6 times. So 30 minutes, we'll do it again. And it's time for our second turn. Getting my hand wet. The exact same thing, quarter turn, 4 times. You'll notice the dough each time starts to look a little bit different though. Hey Siri, set a timer for 30 minutes.
30 minutes, starting now.
And third set of turns. All right, it's time for the 5th, and this will be the final set of turns today because I think my dough is looking good. It's got good structure. Just feels puffy, airy. I can see some bubbles in there. All right, that's it. Next time we'll turn it out. All right, we have done all of our turns and it's time to turn the dough out of the bowl onto the bench, which I just use a scraper. And there it is. Now we flour the top of it. And cut it in half. Flip them. And now we just do a little shaping for its bench rest. It's going to sit on here for about 20 to 30 minutes before we put it in the baskets to do its final rise. So just a gentle shape into a round. You don't have to be too careful about this. And this scraper helps if it sticks to your board. Move it around a bit. That is good enough. Cover. Okay, now I'm going to prep my baskets for when we do put that in there. And this is just a mix of 50-50 white flour and rice flour. And I like to use these baskets to have them rise, but you can use any kind of bowl. They just should be around this shape and size. And that'll do it. Okay, our dough has done its bench rest, and now it's time to shape it into loaves. So one at a time, I'm going to flip this over. And gently kind of stretch it out into a bigger square shape. I don't want to lose all the air in there, but I do want to stretch it out a bit. And now I'm going to fold the bottom half up into thirds. And I'm going to take one side, kind of flop it out and fold it over to the middle. And I'm going to do the same with the left side. Into the middle. I'm going to take the top and fold it forward, and I'm going to kind of pinch that bottom portion over. And now it's more or less in a ball, and I'm going to be pulling it towards me, stretching it, and making a ball shape and getting tension on the top of the ball. Doesn't really stick to the board, but it does stick enough to give you that tension. And when you can feel it kind of getting nice and taut, I think that would be good. Kind of pinch all those bits together. Then your tensioned ball part goes face down into the basket that we did already flour. And that's good to go. And now I will do the same for the second loaf. Flip it over. Kind of a rough square. Bottom third up. Right side out. Left side out. Top towards me, and now bottom flipped over. And now just roll it into the ball against the bench. Get in there. And that feels good. And again, down, and I sort of just pinch those edges together a bit. Now you can put a towel over that, or I have these little covers that came with these baskets, and I like to just put those on. And this is going to just rise here in my kitchen in kind of 68, 70 degree room. And it'll probably take 3 to 4 hours before they're ready to bake. Okay, it is time to bake our loaves. They've been rising for about 4 hours. And about a half hour ago, I got my oven turned on to 460 degrees. And I put 2 pots in that I'm going to bake my loaves in. I bake them at the same time. They fit in my oven. So let's get them in the pots. Them both out. Super hot, so you gotta be careful. There's one. And I'm just gonna flip this over, and it flops right in. Real nice. Shake it so it's kind of in the center. Can you come and show it right in the pot? And now this is my lamb, and I'm gonna score, and I usually do 1 on the outside, both sides, and then 1 down the middle. And that's it. That one is ready to go in the oven. We put the lid on. And we go back in. And now, number 2. Flip out. You can do all sorts of fancy scoring, but that just kind of is the easiest, I think. All right, they go in at the same 460 degrees. And as you can see, I also put a cookie sheet underneath because sometimes mine get too dark on the bottom, and if I have that in there, they tend not to do that. So I'm gonna do 24 minutes with the lid on. And then I'm going to take the lids off another 12 to 14 minutes. We'll see it when that's all done. Okay, they did 24 minutes with lid on, 12, 13 minutes with lid off, and I think they're done. Time to come off. Setting down. So it's about 5 o'clock now, and I started this morning around 7 a.m. So just to have a timeline. It takes a while, but obviously most of it is hands-off time. And there's one. Sometimes they pop, they always come right out, but sometimes it's hard to grab hold of it. And let those cool for a bit, and they'll be good to go.